Apple just did something that broke the tech side of the internet, something that many of us never thought we'd see in our lifetime. They announced their self-service repair program, finally allowing regular people to order genuine Apple parts to fix their own devices. This is an absolutely amazing shift in the way that Apple does things, making it seem like they're finally turning over a new leaf, especially after the release of the new MacBook Pro, which is far more repairable than previous MacBooks, earning a 4 out of 10 iFixit repairability score compared to the previous 1 out of 10 score on the Intel 16-inch model. So this is obviously good news for all consumers, but don't think that Apple is doing this out of the kindness of their own hearts, because there is actually a hidden reason for why Apple is making this change now, as well as many different ways that they will directly benefit from this new repair program. But before I jump into all of that, I want to quickly explain how all of this is going to work and how it's going to benefit you, the customer. Starting sometime in early 2022, you'll be able to visit a new Apple self-service repair online store, choose the repair you want to make, then check out the manual to see if you're capable and willing enough to repair it yourself, then order the genuine parts and tools to make the repair, and then finally ship back the old parts to Apple for a recycling credit. Now, it'll first be rolling out with the iPhone 12 and 13. So for example, if you cracked your front glass, you can order a new display panel and swap it out yourself without having to pay a massive $329 for Apple to do this for you, which currently leads many common people to a local repair shop that is going to try to sell you on a crappy, unreliable third-party display to lower the total cost, since of course they're going to be charging you extra for the labor cost to repair it. But don't get me wrong, this new program is also very good news for independent repair shops that will now have access to Apple service manuals and genuine parts, especially now that Apple has finally changed their mind on the iPhone 13 display replacements, disabling features like Face ID, even if you're using genuine parts from another iPhone. So this is essentially a win-win for everyone. But I do want to mention that the new program is really only meant for those who do not have Applecare Plus, because anyone with that coverage only has to pay $29 for Apple to replace the screen, which I can guarantee you is multiple times cheaper than Apple is going to be charging you for a genuine display panel that you have to replace yourself. And on top of that, you'll probably be waiving your right to any sort of warranty as soon as you decide to fix something yourself. So if you mess something else up, like ripping a ribbon cable while replacing a component, then you're on your own. And some people on Twitter are wondering if Apple is going to be requiring you to purchase expensive tools like a $250 heated display removal fixture in order to purchase a replacement display. But I honestly don't think that Apple is going to be going that far, since it's going to be much more worth it for you to pay a shop to do it for you. But perhaps the best part about all of this is that Apple is going to be rolling out this service to their Mac lineup, starting with the new M1 Max. So it makes sense why Apple brought back those battery pull tabs on the new M1 Pro Max MacBook Pros. So with that said, it's very exciting that this is going to be a win-win situation for both consumers and independent repair shops. But now I want to get into why it's actually Apple who is the real winner in this situation. But first, let's get into that hidden reason for why Apple is turning over a new leaf. As we all know, the right to repair movement has been gaining some ground in recent years by gathering followers and spreading the word about Apple's locked down repairability ecosystem. Now, this has already been creating problems for Apple, because I personally know people who refuse to buy Apple products solely because of Apple's stance on repairs. And this is especially true for their MacBooks, which feature soldered on storage and other components. But the even bigger problem for Apple came in July 21st of this year, when the Federal Trade Commission formally pledged to fight unlawful right to repair restrictions. And this came after President Biden signed an executive order on July 9th asking the FTC to crack down on companies like Apple who have unfair anti-competitive restrictions on third-party or self-repair. So basically, the point is that if Apple didn't open this new self-service program out of their own will, they would have been forced into doing it down the road anyway. But now we have the question of why they caved so early instead of dragging the process as long as possible. And this is where we get into the various benefits for Apple, which far outweigh the cons. So let's jump right into the first reason or benefit. I fully believe that Apple is finally trying to repair their brand image in an effort to bring back all of those potential customers who have been avoiding Apple for years because of these moral issues like repairability. And I believe it's also very closely tied to their Apple Silicon transition for their Mac lineup, because for the first time ever, Apple is now able to perfectly streamline the experience and ecosystem of all of their devices at once, thanks to those new ARM-based M1 chips, which are essentially souped-up iPhone and iPad chips. And if you've been following our Mac content, you'll know that I fully believe that Apple's master plan for the new MacBook Pros was to create the best laptop in the world so that they can finally take back a bunch of the laptop market share from the Windows competition. And that will obviously require steps like Apple repairing their brand image, as well as listening to their customers and bringing back features like the wide variety of ports, reliable function keys, awesome display quality with 120Hz ProMotion, and a thicker design that supports better cooling performance. So if Apple wants to regain serious laptop market share, they need to repair their brand image, which this new self-service program achieves. Now on top of that, another reason is that Apple is probably sick and tired of being sued all the time for their repairability issues, because not only do they have to spend money on lawyers and waste a bunch of time with all of those court hearings, but it also makes Apple look like a villain because they're constantly in a negative spotlight. So it makes sense for Apple to cave in early and give us this repair program. Now getting into the next benefit for Apple, we already know that Facebook, or Meta, has announced their VR headset Metaverse, or in other words, a real-life matrix that'll help you escape the real world and instantly upgrade your rundown studio apartment into a $1 million penthouse. And as you might already know, Apple is preparing to launch their own VR headset as soon as next year, potentially alongside their own version of a metaverse. So if they want to gain the trust of millions of customers, they need to start doing it now, which they obviously are. So with all of that out of the way, let's pivot over to a completely different side of things with some real world benefits for Apple to reap right now. We were recently warned by the CEO of Nvidia that the chip shortage is going to last through 2022, and other economists think it could potentially last years, with even Apple warning us that their sales are taking a hit directly because of all the chip and transportation shortages. So in my opinion, I think Apple's new self-service repair program is gonna help Apple recycle and refurbish as many components as possible to get through these shortages. And that right there is the real reason why they're offering credits to customers who return their used or broken parts back to Apple for recycling. So for example, the number one thing that gets repaired on an iPhone is a cracked display. We're talking millions of iPhones per year. And before this self-service repair program, people would replace their display with a cheap third-party panel from China and most likely toss the genuine cracked panel in the garbage can. But now, with the new returned part credit system, people will finally have a reason to send that cracked display back to Apple, and then Apple will be able to simply replace the cracked glass and re-laminate it to the very expensive display panel that was in perfect condition all along, and then sell that refurbished part to either self-repair customers or refurbishers. And the story is the same for customers who return their old iPhone and Mac battery packs back for a credit, since Apple can very easily recycle the batteries to make extra profit, instead of people simply tossing their old batteries in the trash or wherever else. And going even further, Apple could potentially go as far as taking returned components apart into various items like perfectly good condition ribbon cables, which they could then resell back to customers or refurbishers. And in the worst case scenario, when customers don't return back old parts for a credit, Apple will keep the extra profit since they're likely gonna overcharge for the parts ahead of time. Kind of like auto stores who overcharge for car batteries, expecting you to return the old one for a credit. But going even further into the next reason why Apple is gonna be benefiting from this new self-service repair program, the US is currently going through a widespread worker shortage ever since the pandemic broke out. So there's a really good chance that it's getting increasingly more difficult and expensive for Apple to hire and train employees who can keep up with all of the repairs that need to get done these days, especially if Apple is expecting to regain a bunch of laptop market share within the next couple of years. So with this new self-repair program, Apple is essentially offloading all of this repair work to the customers themselves, saving Apple millions of dollars in terms of having to hire and train repair technicians, and allowing them to repurpose employees in areas where there are shortages. So from Apple's perspective, they're making extra profit off of selling these genuine parts, and they get to go completely hands-off after that since the customer puts in their own labor hours to fix their own iPhone. But the beautiful thing about all of this is that it's essentially a win-win for everyone, especially the folks over at Apple who have a variety of very good reasons to make this self-service repair program happen, with them now finally being able to get the right to repair movement off of their back, as well as giving them an opportunity to show their Apple brand image in an entirely new, positive light. So hopefully you learned something new in this video, and if you disagree with anything that I've said, go ahead and leave a comment below. But if you enjoyed it, go ahead and click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one, and definitely check out one of those two right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.